Okay, I've got my chaga home from the woods, and now I'm going to process it. Here's some of the chunks, nicer chunks. That's a real typical looking chunk of chaga. A lot of times it'll grow kind of like a cone like that, but not always. They can come in about any shape or size you can imagine. This one, me and the wife found the time before last, and that's probably the nicest, it's the biggest chunk of chaga I've ever found. It was 5.8 pounds. It's so nice, I hate to chop it up, to tell you the truth, but I'm gonna. That will make a lot of chaga tea right there. That's a dandy. So the biggest thing here is you just want to get it broken down so that you can get it dried out. If you don't get it dried out, it'll mold on you. You take a chunk like this, that's not that big a chunk. Maybe that would dry out, but there's moisture inside of that chunk of chaga. So that's the main thing, is if you're going to keep it for a while, you do not want to, you don't want it to get moldy on you. And to prevent it from getting moldy, you have to dry it. So what I do is when I get it home, I just clean it up. It'll have pine needles on it. It may have some birch bark. A chunk of birch bark in your tea isn't going to kill you, but it ain't probably going to help you either. So you just clean it up. You take a brush, this stuff on the side where this birch bark is there, I'll just take a knife and I'll clean that off. Or I got a cleaver. The cleaver is actually what I use to chop the chaga up, but I can put it on here and I can kind of trim that stuff off. I just got a dish pan, just with a hardwood board in the bottom. You could use anything. I see a lot of guys using like a 5-gallon bucket and something that looks like an ice chisel for ice fishing, an ice pick, whatever it takes. A 5-gallon bucket with a hatchet. I see a lot of guys doing that. Me, I use a cleaver, and instead of whacking like this, I still get enough junk flying all over the place. I just put my cleaver on top of my chaga, and I just whack it with the brass hammer right there. That's all there is to it. Get a little garbage on the side, I'll trim that off. This chunk is too big to grind, so I just keep on working it down. Go like that. Cutting, cutting, cutting. There we go. I get it down to pieces about like that, and then I dry them. I've got a friend that has been collecting chaga for a long time. He'll take pieces like this and he'll put it in like a wire basket and set it next to his wood stove. That'll dry it out. I take these pieces and I do it in my food dehydrator. I put it in whatever, medium heat for 8, 10, 12 hours, and that'll make them chunks nice and dry. Here's a bucket of chaga that I have all ready to go. This has been cleaned, broken down, and dehydrated. So this is nice dry chaga. And then what I do is I grind it, but you do not have to. You can make tea out of this chunk right here. You put it in a pan of water, make yourself a couple cups of tea, and use it multiple times. I've watched video clips where they'll take a big chunk of chaga like this and they'll put it in a kettle of water and they'll just steep it until the chaga's tea is about the color that they like, and that's how they do it. But what they do is they just put this in the fridge and then they use it multiple times. But I just have in the research I did, I just think you're going to get the most out of it if it's ground. So that's what I do. I bought a El Cheapo grinder here. Looks just like a meat grinder, only it's got a different front on it. It's made for like a grain mill, for milling corn or grain or nuts, and it works good for this chaga. Take pieces about like that. Now that's cleaned, broken down and dried. So now I can just store it like this forever because it's dry. But when I want to make my tea, I want ground chaga, I just put this in here. It's kind of hard and brittle, so you should actually probably have like a stuffer that you use for meat, which I don't happen to have here right now. I guess I could use the end of this, kind of push it down. That seems to help. But it's that simple. Kind of a slow process, but I don't know. I'm in no hurry to do nothing, so. Here's what we got. Ground chaga. Pretty much looks like coffee. Yeah, and it was nice and dry before I ground it, so we're good to go. Here's what I've been using in my coffee. This is what I've been using here lately. You kind of see what it's like. Very dusty stuff. But almost like coffee, just a little coarser than coffee. Nice and dry. That's what I use. Go find you some chaga. Cut it off, bring it home, clean it up. Chop it up into chunks like this. Get them nice and dry. And then make yourself some tea. You can make your tea out of these chunks like this, or you can do what I do. You can grind it. And I'm going to have another clip here of making some tea. It ain't rocket science, but I'll add it to the clip just so you can see kind of how I make the tea. That's about it. I'll be busy here for a while because this is a lot of chaga. The clip that I put on the hunted hare, at the end I got a nice big chunk of chaga. This is it right here. That's a nice big chunk. I'd say that's about a 4-pounder. But you can see it's all full of crud. It's got pine needles on it. It's got some birch bark. I'll take a brush and brush it off real good and kind of clean it up before I start chopping on it. It's kind of a messy job. You go chopping chaga and there's chunks flying all over the place. When I get done, I gotta pretty much sweep up the whole kitchen floor, but that's no big deal. That's it. Ground chaga. Okay, I had a few people had a little interest in how I made the chaga tea, so I figured I'd just do a quick little clip here. Starting out with half a gallon of water. I put in like maybe an extra cup of water because some of it's going to evaporate, but approximately a half a gallon. The one thing is you do not want to boil the water. You just want it at a medium heat. And I use this little stainless steel, I guess you call it a steeper. It's made for making tea. It has a little lid on it. And for a half a gallon I put 2 tablespoons of this coarse ground chaga. I had this all ground up already. It's kind of like coffee, maybe just a little coarser ground than that. And it's the whole chaga. It's the outside, inside, the black stuff on the outside, and the stuff, I always call it butterscotch, the inner part of the chaga. That's also in there. 2 tablespoons to a half a gallon, and I'll steep it for and at least an hour. I don't have no certain amount. I guess the longer the better, but maybe an hour to 2 hours I'll steep it. And then my standard, you could just drink it like that. You know, people drink coffee black. I do not. I have to have some sugar or cream or something in there to jazz it up a little bit. It just depends on what you like. But in mine, I put 4 tablespoons of honey in pretty much every batch of chaga that I make. It just sweetens it up a little bit. And then beyond that, there's a bunch of different things you could use. The wife seems to kind of like honey, like lemon juice. I'll put a tablespoon of lemon juice in. In this batch, I'm going to put a tablespoon of Smucker's blueberry syrup. It just gives it a little bit of flavor. You can use tart cherry extract is also supposed to be good for you and gives it a little flavor. You can put pretty much anything in you want. It's just like making coffee. A matter of fact, when I make my coffee in the morning, instead of using 2 tablespoons of coffee, I use 1 of coffee and 1 of chaga. So every single day I drink chaga no matter what, because I always have at least a cup of coffee in the morning and it has chaga in it. In the evening, I'm sitting around watching TV. I'll take some chaga. Once this is done, I'll put it in a half-gallon jug and store it in the refrigerator. Take it out. The wife drinks it cold. I like to pour it in a coffee cup and heat it up a little bit and drink some warm chaga in the evening when I'm watching TV or something. That's pretty much all there is to it. The only other thing I can think of, and I'll probably show you when I'm doing it, but after this steeps for an hour or 2, I run it through a coffee filter. And you won't get the whole batch through 1 coffee filter. Normally I use probably 3 coffee filters to get all the chaga filtered out. It just takes some of the crud out of it, kind of cleans it up a little bit. So I always run it through the coffee filter. And that's about all I can think of. Like I said, you could just store it in the fridge and just drink it cold. That's how my wife likes to drink it. But there's a bunch of different ways to skin that cat. But like I say, I add chaga to my coffee in the morning, so no matter what, I drink chaga every single day. And it's, without a doubt, seems to help. I don't have I have problems with my joints and stuff, and I can tell a big difference when if for some reason I'm out on the road or something and I haven't had my chaga for a while, I can feel it in my joints. There's just no 2 ways about it. So there you go. That's how you make chaga tea.